You got it locked into New York's best talk, HTLA Radio 1, New York. HTLA Radio 1.
Oh, welcome to Real Talk. I am your host, this intellectual Kate Taylor, and this is HTLA Radio 1 New York. If you love film, if you live film, then this is the film show for you. Except tonight we're not talking about film, we're talking about TV. We're using our mid-season to discuss television, put our films on hiatus for a while, but next week we'll be back with all the spate of horror films that came out in the second half of 2014, and I'm going to be talking about them because I actually saw them all. So from Annabelle to Jezebel to The Pyramid to As Above, So Below to Exists. Oh, the list goes on and on. We're going to compare all of the Hollywood blockbuster horror films that are coming up next week. But this week, as last week, we're going to be talking about TV because we were so incensed by the Walking Dead mid-season finale that we decided that we need to do a show about just that. And tonight, it is that. So remember that with the exception of special episodes like tonight, the films that I analyze are generally not currently in theaters, but I do go beyond spoilers in the show and break down the structure and story of the films I compare, not so much with the TV, but with film. So if you've not seen the things that I'm discussing, remember they're all available on Netflix unless otherwise noted. So go watch them, get into them, then come back and tear them up with me here. This is a film analysis show generally. It's not for those with an interest in just seeing film, but someone who would like to be part of the history of making them, somebody who goes a little bit beyond viewer and consumer. Films about creating life and telling the stories of those creations, worlds, characters, loves, and losses. And I'm a screenwriter married to a director, and we tell stories. Thus, I dissect and analyze the stories others tell so I can constantly discover and learn and find better ways to tell my stories to you. So if you more than watch film, if you, like me, become the film or TV show that you're watching for that 90 or so minutes, then again, welcome to Real Talk. Oh, and I know you're excited about tonight's TV show.
Oh, I am, as
TV
always.
Episode,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. But before we get into tonight's show, we've got to take care of those generous and brilliant folks that keep us on the air for you.
We do.
Yes, so station business, if you please.
Well, tonight's show is partially brought to you by the fine folks at Netflix. Yes, why not stay in tonight and make it a Netflix night? Also by Procast, the automated intelligent project facilitation solution. It's coming. And, of course, Tim Hortons New York City, now with 8 fine locations throughout the city to serve your coffee and baked good needs.
Mm-hmm, that's right. Well, thank you so much. Please keep in mind, and, for those of you that don't know, my co-host, Christopher Crash Jesus Taylor, is going to be more of a permanent fixture on Real Talk here with me. I'm trying to get him to watch more film and expand his repertoire a bit, so he's going to be on here giving his 2 cents and throwing his opinions about, too. So especially when it comes to TV, because we watch a lot of TV together.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But please keep in mind that the opinions that we are about to express here do not necessarily reflect those of HTLA Radio 1 or our sponsors or advertisers.
That's correct.
Right. So for all my past, current, and future episode information, as well as forums, which are coming, to join in the discussion about what you think about my celluloid dissection, visit us on www.htlaradio1.com. That's the number 1, just like us. And do some real talking of your own.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, so on with the show.
Well, how are we going to break it up there tonight? Are we going to do this series segment and that series segment and then kind of a wrap, or how you want to do that?
Well, I mean, the whole show's premise is this mid-season silliness.
That's a little silly, yeah.
You know, the insanity that is the mid-season. You know, there's winter season, there's fall season, there's mid-season, there's mid-season, there's you know, and these terms are all created at, you know, drunken Vegas conferences and things by executives, and we people that just sit around at home and watch, we don't really care what you call it.
Yeah.
You know, we just want our show. You know, but with shows like Game of Thrones, that there's literally years between series. You know, thankfully they don't do a mid-season episode, a mid-season finale. But the reason they don't do that is because their seasons are painfully short as it is. You know, actually, we've actually missed the last season of Game of Thrones. We were in the middle of other things work-wise and production-wise. So we haven't even had a chance to watch, what is it, season 4, I think? Season 5's coming, right?
Right, yeah.
So we've missed that. But I remember the last season we actually were, you know, blessed to watch. It was painfully short. It was, you know, not as long as a regular television series season. You know,
No.
It wasn't 13 to 20 episodes. It was.
Well, you know, it makes me wonder, you know, back in the, I guess early to mid-90s is really when all that kind of strange TV stuff started happening. And it started happening with, well, oddly enough, it was the success of shows like The X-Files and Outer Limits, because what they realized they could do was, hey, DVD collections every year for Christmas.
Right. Yes, that.
So this is when we saw, you know, it went from, you know, the good old Andy Taylor and the Andy Griffith Show just being a weekly thing, period,
Right.
to television networks starting to break up their broadcasting seasons into, you know, times of the year, the fall season, the spring season.
Right.
Well, now within those seasons, of course, is how they've jammed in their new television series now. And what we're finding is that what would be normally one season or 1 year of shows is now being broken up into several groups. And I think it's to sell more box sets.
Well, it is. It's to sell more box sets. It's to sell more advertising. And it's also to increase their lineup. So what they do is, you know, the season premieres of a show, let's say Walking Dead, right?
Yeah,
It premieres. And then it goes 6 or 8 episodes. Maybe even less now.
Right.
And then it's time for the mid-season finale, you know, and it's usually the mid-season is around the holidays.
Yeah.
And what they do is they utilize that opportunity to put shows on that network that are new. I believe The Americans are being launched on FX now, or
Right.
in lieu of Walking Dead or whatever channel that's on. AMC, I mean, right? Something like that. Or was that Sons of Anarchy?
No, well, see, Sons of
there's
Anarchy.
so many, I'm confused.
Sons of Anarchy finished up, and they're using The Americans to fill the slot.
Right. But now there is, in The Walking Dead, for example, where that is on its mid-season hiatus, you know, they'll put in other shows that they want viewers to watch, hoping that time slot will be filled. You know, because people are so used to tuning in that time of week and that time of day for that show, they'll, you know, automatically tune in anyway. And whether the show's good or not, it's got a shot.
Well, and that's the other thing, too, is that, you know, not all series are created equal. So
Right.
if you have amazing blockbusters like Game of Thrones and Walking Dead,
Right.
of course, you're going to want to try and phase those out because no series is forever. You know there's going to be an end at some point.
Oh, don't remind me.
And-
yeah, like Sons of Anarchy just
and
ended.
you
right.
want to maintain your watchers. So introducing all these new secondary kind of series is in those mid-season breaks.
Right.
I think it's their attempt to draw
Right.
a following to those shows and then move them when the other shows come back.
Right. And they do that too when the series ends for the season.
Right.
They'll put that show on then too. So they're kind of and it's also because they're trying to get more shows in their lineup because more shows mean more advertising dollars. Mm-hmm. So and more commercialization and all that kind of merchandising, all that stuff.
Right.
But I find that you don't see the lesser shows having these kind of mid-season finales and these kind of hoorahs and we're going to talk a little bit about after shows on the break like we promised last week. You know, we promised we would do that too.
Well, I can tell you partially what it is. Back in the good old days, we had ABC, NBC, CBS, and
Right.
those networks made their own shows.
Right.
The Cosby Show was made at NBC Studios.
Right.
NBC
Exactly.
Studios owned that.
Right.
Now NBC Studios is not really owning so much anymore. They're bringing in content from other providers.
Okay.
Companies like HBO that do Game of Thrones,
Right.
they own that.
Yeah.
So they hang on to that.
Right.
But it's the same situation. Well, HBO now, FX, Netflix, Amazon, all these new production houses are coming up on the scene now with a lot of money behind them.
Yeah, I love Netflix original stuff. Gotta say,
All of them have their own platforms to broadcast, so they're not dependent on NBC to show their stuff.
Right.
So now, of course, what you're seeing is it's those ancillary companies that have come late onto the scene. It's not so much the mainstream television networks of old.
Okay.
It's these new guys. This is how they're bringing more exclusivity. They're offering huge, wide variety in their programming, and then they're pulling these schedule shifts to extend and maximize that dollar and that merchandising because NBC doesn't own the rights to the Cosby Show stuff. They own the Cosby Show maybe in itself, but the Cosby Show production company owns that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay, so it's long story short is what you end up with is people like the FX and the HBOs and everything out there, the AMCs, they all own that stuff lock, stock, and barrel. They're getting money front and back.
I see. Okay.
Okay, so they can do stuff like that. I think what was it on the on that mid-season finale there of The Walking Dead? They had 29 million tune into that one episode.
Right. That's a huge number. It's Super Bowl number. It's huge.
Well, the last record that they broke was the season ender of the season before, and that was only 17.9 million.
Right.
And that took the cake. Nobody had seen that before.
Yep.
And now, of course, they've come close to doubling that.
Right. Well, since we haven't much talked about Walking Dead, and we're huge fans and followers as well, and I guess everybody at this point has been fortunate or not, however you want to term it, to have seen the mid-season finale and the season that just occurred.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that season, how sucky it was. So, because this is a film analysis show. This is a show review and analysis show. And for me, this was the worst season ever so far. Production-wise, writing-wise, even cast-wise. I'm so incensed with cast choices now. It's not even funny. Yeah, I mean, they're replacing all our originals with all these other secondary actors that
we're supposed to
care about. I just don't care about any of them. And Maggie and Glenn are off with the whole Save the World team, and then that turned out to be a sham, which I have to admit that was a good plot twist. I didn't see that coming.
No.
I really didn't. It just never occurred to me. I was so overjoyed at the prospect there might be a cure that I never saw it coming that he would be a liar. So it was a really good plot twist. And then, but more so because of the layer of reality that's likely. That that's their only talent would be to lie, to save themselves. That's their only survival skill. So, of course, they're going to utilize that. Oh, I can save the world, save me, And I thought that was really brilliant. So, but to me, that was the only saving grace in the entire season. It really was. Don't care about the lesbian girl. Don't care about, Sasha and her brother and that whole clicky there and who loves who and who's getting killed and oh, you can love again and all this kind of crap. And, and I don't care about the hospital. That was, I'd had it with Terminus. I'd even had it with the town, with the governor. I was so glad they were done. Yeah. And then Terminus came along and I was like, you've got to be kidding me with this, right? And then, and now the hospital.
It's almost like the zombie apocalypse is secondary to the lame writing.
Exactly.
Oh my God, we're trapped with this writer.
All I can do is hope that, they're going to kick it up a notch now and do something with the whole, actual zombie storyline.
Yeah.
I mean, how many years has it been now? How come they're not starved to death?
That's a very good question. Although, I don't know, the way I kind of perceive that, at least the way I think they're presenting it, me being the one who's always looking for the reality and everything.
Right.
My assumption is that the areas that they've been in, ever since really this started, but, the farmhouse where Herschel was, the camps they had outside the city, going to Atlanta and then leaving Atlanta, all these kind of wooded areas, these country back roads that they've always stuck to and only going into cities for very limited exposure.
Right.
All of which makes sense to me, by the way.
Sure.
But it just kind of is a sort of an afterthought in my head that the cities are really what's decimated. And the kind of more rural you go, the less affected everyone is and everything is. So I think in a situation like this, why aren't they starving to death kind of thing, My assumption, my suspension of disbelief is that, that there was enough corner stores and...
Oh, I didn't mean the survivors. I meant the zombies.
Oh.
The people that have survived the initial apocalypse. Now this is years now, right? This is years since this has happened.
This is another problem with this show that I have, though, is that they seem to be accelerating 4 and 5 years into it, and I don't think you can do that very smartly.
Well, that's the thing. The zombies would all be dead because the initial people that weren't turned or killed as soon as it happened would have found ways to survive or died by now.
Who says zombies need food to survive? They're zombies.
They go after us to eat us. That's why we have to kill them.
They go after us to spread the infection, I thought.
They go after us to eat us. They eat us.
I don't know.
They weren't knocking down the fence of the prison to spread the infection.
Even since day one, a few minutes later after the person's dead, they turn and they get up in their numbers another zombie. They're not food. The zombies don't get to sit there and consume the whole 5-course human meal. They turn within minutes and they're up and all starving too. I don't think they do it for sustenance at all.
Well, see, the original premise, if you go back to Romero's Night of the Living Dead, was that zombies needed to eat people for their food. That was their food. That was their craving.
I think
their food.
That's the mistake. I don't think you can go to what the traditional norm is. You just said Romero's zombies. Well, that's his zombies. This is The Walking Dead.
Okay, but also by now, even with War of the Worlds and the aliens coming here, it was the common cold that killed them.
Well,
by now, someone will have discovered a weakness in the zombie, thing, and in their transformation, in their somatic need or whatever it is, in their physiology, someone would have discovered a weakness, and we could have. Something had to be done. The zombies, after all these years, can't just still be turning and running rampant and in mass numbers that they still are. If so, the survivors would be much less as well.
True.
You know what I mean? So there's a whole discontinuity there that's not being explained. And yet we're worried about hospitals and these lone groups of people that are... And at first, I almost had a heart attack when Beth got kidnapped by the guy in the black car because the first thing I thought it was Phantasm and the Tall Man, right? And I don't know if you've seen those, but that was a brilliant series from the 70s, and it was awesome.
No.
But I'll play him for you. It's really good. But... the Tall Man was a giant mortuary guy, and
I remember actually the Tall Man. I remember the movie Phantasm and that stupid little glass reflecting ball or whatever it was on the cover of the VHS.
Oh the balls come in, gotcha and stuff.
I just never picked it up because I'm not a horror guy.
Right,
so.
But yes. Well, anyway, so it reminded me of the Tall Man, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is getting really cheesy now if they're referring back to like Phantasm, So. I just think there's so much more they're not. And also what we loved about The Walking Dead was when it started was it was such a character piece. It was really about the survivors and the character and Rick and Lori and Shane and the love triangle. And, everybody struggling with their humanity in this world that wasn't human anymore.
It's almost like all of those main characters have had their arc. Maggie and Glenn are together now and living happily ever after. Don't care anymore.
Right.
Shane's dead. That whole thing's worked out.
Never cared about Shane,
anymore.
but that was me.
Lori's dead. Got what she deserved. The baby's still alive. Don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Carl's a man now. He's shooting things. Don't care anymore.
Right.
And
even Rick almost going nuts and coming back from the brink. Where else are you going to take that character now?
Yeah, it's done. Don't care anymore. And so what are you left with now? Michonne, who's still, I don't know if that's trying to arc or what the hell that is. That
I think she's coming back.
It was nice in the third season, to see more into her backstory and stuff, because up until then, I hated her.
She hadn't smiled. She hadn't done nothing. She was just a miserable cow, and I wanted her gone, too.
That
Me too.
whole thing,
Right.
through with Andrea and the governor and all that crap, I didn't care one bit about her. I was like,
Nope.
why is she getting so much screen time?
She's miserable, right. Uh-huh. I agree.
Well, anyway, before we continue on here, we got to go for our first commercial break.
Right.
And when we come back, we'll delve into...
Oh, well, more of that, but also, Game of Thrones and, what the future is, and then the after shows, etc. So there's a lot more. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 2.
You've got it locked to New York's best talk, HTLA Radio 1, New York.
So do you guys think being fast is better than being slow?
Yes! It's better to be fast, to not be bitten by a werewolf, and then you'll be turned into one, and you'll have to stay in, and then you'll have to get shade because you'll be too hot, and then you're like... which means I wish I was back to a human.
What?
It's not complicated. Faster is better. And AT&T is the nation's fastest 4G LTE network for your iPhone 5.
You walked into the hotel as a 5. But when she saw the room, you turned into a weird 7. When she saw the rooftop pool, you went to 11. You two should probably get a room. Oh, that's right. You already did. At Planet Earth's #1 accommodation site, Booking.com. Booking.yeah.
Glasses. White Rum has a new captain. Introducing the all-new Captain Morgan White Rum. 5 times distilled for a smoother taste.
When you have cable and your picture freezes, you get irritable. When you get irritable, your work suffers. When your work suffers, the wrong man is convicted. When the wrong man is convicted, he has time to think. When he has time to think, he thinks about you a lot. And when he thinks about you a lot, your house explodes. Don't have your house explode. Get rid of cable and upgrade to DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV.
I've been eating Egg McMuffins since 1984. But when I saw Taco Bell made a waffle taco, I figured I would get with the times. So I got a haircut and I got some tighter pants. Lost my flip phone, got a smartphone, even took down my Loverboy poster. Now I'm eating waffle tacos and AM Crunch Wraps, and I just made like $700 on Craigslist.
Move on from your old McDonald's breakfast with Taco Bell's exciting new breakfast menu.
You're still listening to HTLA Radio 1, New York.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
From all of us at HTLA Radio 1 New York, happy holidays. Yes, Kate keeps forgetting it's Christmas time.
I do. I have all the lights around me in the studio. I even have this big orange lit star next to my booth here. And, I just forget. But
It's because we're so religious.
Mm-hmm. I won't forget tomorrow. I start baking for Christmas tomorrow night.
Oh, yeah.
So,
countdown is on.
That's it. You know it.
There's only 0 more shopping days till baking.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, I did a huge grocery today. So, yes, that's it. We're all set. I got everything. I even got New Year's Day dinner.
That's right. You did, too. Yeah, you're down. Now we can hunker down and stay behind the 12-foot wall of snow.
Right. I wish. Yeah, I wish. Maybe it's coming. They say White Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, we're back now. We were talking about how, all of the main characters in this have fallen off. And you know what? I kind of have a feeling. I know.
Okay.
I know that the writers know this because, and there was proof in that very last episode, the mid-season finale. That was just senseless, stupid.
Yeah,
and,
she was starting to arc. She could have grown into a character that would have been awesome.
That was a complete waste of a good, starting character in my view. Absolutely. You got to ask yourself, what was the point of all that? And then of course, maybe the writer's point was that the intention was that, everything is senseless now and nothing makes sense anymore because it's the post-apocalyptic zombie world. Sure, but
I thought that was the point of season 3.
No, they're just that was just wrong. And then the subsequent reaction of the rest of the group. I'm sorry, Daryl and Rick. Ignore everybody else because most of the others in the group now are those new ones that
they don't really have a connection to Beth or Maggie, right? Or Herschel, for that matter.
But Carol just stands there. Daryl just stands there. Rick just stands there. They should have opened up. They should have leveled that hallway.
Well, Daryl was going to, and Carol stopped him. And then Rick was like, anybody that wants to come with us, you can come with us. But you're right. I would have wiped them all off. I would just,
but why would you invite anybody that's standing with a group that just did that to Beth?
Well, because she did that to Beth, and she was the problem. And the cops that they had kidnapped even said, we got a wacko leader chick.
Oh, that's great. Rick and the other group don't know what we know about that hospital group. Sorry. They don't.
Yeah, they do, because they kidnapped the cops. And they told them, listen, we're all good. It's this crazy wacko lady we got to get rid of.
Well, what would you say if you were captured? My point is that Rick's group does not know lick one about everything that we know about the people in the group because they don't watch the show.
And I've had it with despotic leaders of these fragmented groups around the world in this world, know.
Well, psychologically speaking, though, isn't that what would happen?
Not really.
Really?
You'd be surprised. Sure, maybe on occasion, but you're going to have your sheep that have no idea what to do, so they're going to follow the first leader they come across, absolutely.
Right.
But, the fact that they're all like these, they all turn into these, tyrannical, self-serving kind of
cannibalistic.
I mean, first the governor and then, Terminus where they're eating people and, now this hospital where it's just a little much. It's just what's next, I can't even imagine what's next.
That's true. But on the other side of the coin, how popular would the show be if they did find some nice, secure place and they actually set up shop and they actually grew their crops like Herschel wanted and became self-perpetuating?
But that's most likely what would happen in a scenario, and it would once again become a character piece. The setting would just be a post-apocalyptic, zombie-ridden world.
Yeah, but, what would Road Warrior have been if there wasn't those dudes in the football pads?
Right. No, I agree that's necessary and likely to come across every once in a while. Things of that
certainly
nature.
Not every
but
group.
Every season, it's a different wacko faction that they have to fight.
And that gets a little old.
That gets old. And that's why I really had hope for the Save the World storyline. Mm-hmm. Because I'm thinking, okay, now they can get to a place where they're at least the action's positive.
Right.
You'll have your bad apple. You'll have your one nut job that'll not be able to take the pressure and lose it and threaten everybody. And your classic drama, your classic things and crises that need to be played out.
Sure.
But not every season yet another wacko faction. I feel like they should all have jerseys and we're like Team Terminus or, Team Governor or Team Rick or whatever.
That, sadly, that was probably the network's idea.
Yeah, it might have been. I don't know.
Maybe they turned it down at the last minute because it was too Twilighty.
Right. I thought that Carol killing the little girl who was turning nutso was another stupid storyline.
I gotta say, I'm kind of too torn on that. One, I liked when her and who is it? T, Mr. T. TJ,
I don't know what the heck his name is. Sasha's brother.
Big T.
Big dude,
Mr. T.
Whatever. I don't pay attention to those minor characters.
Well, when they actually hooked up with the two girls, and then they actually found that place that was close to Terminus,
right?
And thought, geez, we could actually settle down and make a go of it.
Lizzie and Sasha were the girls, or no, Lizzie and I forget when she killed her sister. Though that was kind of crazy.
Again, kind of a senseless loss there.
Because she wanted her to turn into a zombie. because she had a thing for the zombies. They were her friends.
Yeah, I do like the way that they worked that in with the, splayed open rats and everything in the prison, months before.
Yeah, except for it was a great plant, but there wasn't enough follow through. I don't think it was, to me, that kind of storyline came out of the blue, really. So what are you saying? There's no psychological resources to be had in a future world of this kind, so let's just shoot all the mentally ill people. That was the message, pretty much. So the little girl is sick, because she's all messed up from what happened. Yeah. Obviously can't blame her. So let's not help her. Let's just kill her because she's not going to survive and she's just going to hurt the rest of us. What message does that send? They didn't even think about that?
I'm sure they thought about that.
Well, I don't know, because that was the message I got. Oh, well, there's no, mental health facilities for children. There's no Ritalin. Let's just shoot her in the head. What are you going to do? So, but it was just, I think that when you have a great idea, this is what I always say is so difficult about series that go on for too long. Yeah. You run out of stuff to write about when it's an original series. This was based on a comic book. And I know initially they stayed incredibly true to that, graphic novel idea kind of thing in the stories that were put in there. Yeah. But now it's starting to get to a point where do you go from here and what do you do? And I'm not sure. I can't say that it's not already completely written out and done in the comic because I'm not sure. I haven't followed it. I don't want to know. Like, I'm just enjoying the series for the series. Right. But, from a writer's perspective of TV, it's very difficult to keep the characters, they have to arc at some point. They can't just stay where they are for too long. And if they arc too soon, you lose the character. It's really, really difficult. But they're forgetting, I think, that it's a character-driven thing anyway. And all this extra ridiculousness is starting to really weigh heavily, and the characters are getting lost. The priest, sure, what the hell was his deal?
I still don't know. But, it's kind of interesting, on the one hand, because I like I said just before the commercial break about how all the main characters are either dead or they've arced, to my way of thinking, and I don't care anymore.
Right, and there can't be a secondary arc now. I mean, sure, in the future there are things that happen and we do change, but it's usually not within 2 years.
And the rest of them, all these new additions in the last season, these people I don't care about. I think, to be honest, they're just thrown in there to appease.
Yeah, because everybody wants to see their kind of person in that show.
And there's just nothing to them. They're two-dimensional characters, right. If that. Right. And I don't care what they're doing. Their storylines are kind of flat. They're wishy-washy. Even the scenes with them in them, which now make up almost half the show every week. Right. Whatever. You've lost whatever you had is what I'm saying.
And even Rick, his whole mission in life is, well, I have to make this really tough decision because I'm the leader. And it's always that. It's always a life or death decision that Rick's got to make. That's his crisis, his dilemma every single show. Yeah. And it's getting old already. I thought when he was losing it and on the brink after he lost Lori and all that kind of stuff, that was an interesting thing. The
thing that bothers me about that whole thing, though, is he didn't really care.
Well, I didn't care because we didn't care because we didn't like Lori, but there was a lot of people out there who did.
He didn't care either. He and her were on the outs.
Yeah, but he still cared, and he felt really guilty because, no, he cared. He cared. He cared in the way that when you're mad at somebody and then something terrible happens to them and you don't ever get to make amends kind of thing, and you're stuck with that regret.
I know. When I'm mad at somebody and then something happens and they're dead, I kind of giggle.
Yeah, you're happy. I know. But, well, this was his wife, though, so it was a little different bit of a deeper thing. It went deeper. And they just had a baby and, all this kind of thing. Now, Judith, I think he was probably crying more for he had to raise the kid himself.
Absolutely.
If I know men, yes. But,
how the hell am I supposed to do this in a perfect world, never mind a zombie world?
That's right. Good thing there was lots of women around to help.
But I have to wonder now, what they're doing with these characters, not only because the ones we actually care about have arced and they're kind of done, but now they're bringing back Bob.
Oh, my goodness, that's right. And that's really exciting to me.
crazy Bob.
But he's not going to be crazy anymore, and he's going to be the one that's going to put everybody on the right path. That's right. I remember now. Thank you for reminding me about that.
Oh, we only saw the one scene of him showing up by the church.
That's
but,
it.
Bob's back.
I wonder if he's got any relation to the preacher. And that's why he was there.
Well, I understood it that he was following the trail that was being left by Rick.
I didn't know Rick was leaving a trail.
Oh, yeah.
For Bob. Or just in general.
Or just in general.
Huh.
Well, when he rode over the terminus sign.
Interesting.
He turned it into a warning instead of an invitation,
Right. Exactly.
No, there's been several drops in there that I've seen. They've been mostly visual, where Rick will just leave a mark on a tree or something, or drop some nuts or something.
Drop some croutons.
Croutons or something, yeah.
Right. Oh, my goodness gracious. But I didn't know who he was doing that for. I just thought it was another nutty thing Rick was doing. So.
Well, yeah, it could be. But, no, I always thought it was for Bob and that whole thing. And, well, now he's back. So.
Well, I'm glad about that. Because I felt really bad when Bob lost his son.
Yeah.
And, so I'm glad to see that he survived, and I'm really interested to see how he's arced and where he's gone from the last time we saw him, and how he's going to help Rick and all that good stuff now.
Yeah.
So, but I guess we'll have to wait till February. At least the good thing about mid-season finales is that they're not that long. It's not that long. It's only through the holidays, and we can live with that.
Yeah, it still bothers the hell out of me, though, because
I know.
It's not cool. I mean,
Tuesdays are still here. Sundays are still here. I could still watch the show.
Well,
I don't care if it's the holidays.
all the old shows. Every show was on every week.
Right. Well, they don't. They act like they're filming over the holidays, so the actors need to take that time off to go be with their families. It's been in the can for months. They're just airing it now, for God's sakes.
Yeah, there's no reason to do this break,
right,
as far as content goes.
No,
all
absolutely
that stuff's shot,
none.
It's done.
Right.
Exactly. And when you see on some website somewhere they say, oh, they're confirmed for season 7 now, that means they're shooting it.
Right. Well, that's what we're going to talk about next, because Game of Thrones has been confirmed through season 7 on HBO. And it's a little bit of a different situation than Walking Dead. Again, it's an adaptation, not an original. And from what I understand, all the books haven't even been written yet.
Yeah, what was that?
That they're adapting this into. And they're starting to say, well, the series writers are going to be finishing the books for him because he's not getting them out fast enough.
Wow. And
what does that say, though? As a writer, I know that it's hard enough to be under pressure, but, his books aren't going to be as good as they could have been if they would have developed organically the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And now he's got to hurry up and finish the stories and make the characters go where they're supposed to go for the series, and it's going to change what that could have been.
Well, and this is another reason why I've always been, a proponent of, if you're going to adapt something from a book or a magazine story or a news article or anything in real life,
right.
You wait till it's done. You wait till it plays out. Otherwise, you end up in a situation
just like this.
Well, yeah, but you end up in a situation like Joe Berlinger, where he does a documentary on the Memphis 3, and then he's going back for the next 15 years doing the second, third, and fourth documentary on the Memphis 3.
Right, well, yes. But
so
long.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing now. Now the network's pushing the writer to finish his book so that they can... No, that's not the way it goes.
Right. No, it's true.
Why are you doing a series on something that's not complete, I guess, is the question in my mind.
Well, like I said, my supposition is that they never expected it to be as big as it is. They just never did. They thought it would go a couple seasons like all the other HBO series. They never expected Game of Thrones to be the phenomenon that it is.
True. And they started that at a time when they were just starting to create their own content, and they were just starting to become known that yes, they were creating their own content.
Right.
And Netflix originals, they started creating their own content, and all those companies started creating their own content, but I guess nobody knew A, what the popularity could grow to, and B, just how long the stuff could run. So I'm with you there.
Right, because, just like any other series, Sons of Anarchy, the first time I saw that, when this first season came out, I didn't like it. The timing just wasn't right for me. I wasn't in the right headspace to enjoy a biker series. But then when I watched it again on Netflix, the first episode, I was hooked. I was in love. Everything was right. The stars aligned. It was perfect, and we loved it, and we watched the whole thing, all 7 seasons. So, but again, with Game of Thrones, just like Walking Dead, if the timing had been off, it wouldn't have been as popular. So it was a matter of the stars aligning. It was meant to be. The right people saw it at the right time. It just was done well. The actors, the cast, the crew, the whole thing, it just all came together and was the perfection that it is.
Yeah.
Now, my issue with Game of Thrones, and this is why also, it's so long in between seasons for Game of Thrones. So unlike Walking Dead, we'll talk about that when we come back from the commercial break. Unlike Walking Dead, where it has a mid-season finale that drives us crazy, Game of Thrones goes sometimes a year between seasons. So we'll talk about that when we come back in 2 minutes.
You've got it locked to New York's best talk, HTLA Radio 1, New York.
Glasses. White Rum has a new captain. Introducing the all-new Captain Morgan White Rum. 5 times distilled for a smoother taste.
You walked into the hotel as a 5. But when she saw the room, you turned into a weird 7. When she saw the rooftop pool, you went to 11. You two should probably get a room. Oh, that's right. You already did. At Planet Earth's #1 accommodation site, Booking.com. Yeah.
When you have cable and can't record all your shows, you feel unhappy. When you feel unhappy, you go to happy hour. When you go to happy hour, you're up for anything. When you're up for anything, you head to a Turkish bathhouse. When you head to a Turkish bathhouse, you meet Charlie Sheen. And when you meet Charlie Sheen, you reenact scenes from Platoon with Charlie Sheen. Don't reenact scenes from Platoon with Charlie Sheen. Get rid of cable and upgrade to DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV.
I've been eating Egg McMuffins since 1984. But when I saw Taco Bell made a waffle taco, I figured I would get with the times. So I got a haircut and I got some tighter pants. Lost my flip phone, got a smartphone, even took down my Loverboy poster. Now I'm eating waffle tacos and AM Crunch Wraps, and I just made like $700 on Craigslist.
Move on from your old McDonald's breakfast with Taco Bell's exciting new breakfast menu.
I stood outside assessing the situation. I knew it could be rough in there, but how rough, there was no way to know for sure.
Hey, guys.
Daddy, it's pink!
But hey, a new house, it's a blank canvas, and we got a great one, thanks to a really low mortgage rate from Navy Federal Credit Union.
Pink?
So she's a princess. You got a problem with that?
Hoorah! Hoorah!
4 million members, 4 million stories. Navy Federal Credit Union.
You're still listening to HTLA Radio 1, New York.
From all of us at HTLA Radio 1 New York, happy holidays! All right, I saved her that time. I kept her fader down so she couldn't do that.
And I remembered anyway, so there you go. But yes, happy holidays from us here at HTLA Radio 1 New York.
Yes,
to all of you.
Welcome back to Real Talk, tonight's Midseason Silliness.
Right
it's
here.
Just
silly.
We're talking Game of Thrones. We're talking Walking Dead. We're talking
we'll
why the,
to the
17 weeks of space in between, because it's fun.
Right. Well, right. We covered the mid-season stuff now that The Walking Dead is doing, and some other shows. It's not the only one. I mean, some pretty not so good cool shows are doing mid-season now because they're trying to be cool, and it's just silly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're talking now about Game of Thrones, and worse than the mid-season silliness is when a year goes by between seasons of a show that we like.
Yeah.
We're talking insanity here. I mean, that is the reason why I missed the last 2 seasons, because by the time it came back on, I was forgotten and gone to other things.
They get done in October, and they're like, we'll see you April 17th. I'm like, no, you won't.
Right.
I won't even know what the heck the name of the show was in 6 months. Are you kidding?
Exactly. And, the last season I watched, it was a lot longer than 6 months, and that's why we didn't get back to it.
Well, yeah. Well, another thing I have a problem with as far as Game of Thrones go is that the story is so bloody intricate. There's so many different characters from so many different factions, from so many different storylines, from so many different plot twists, from so many... There's just so much freaking detail to this. Mm-hmm. And, this series in particular has got maybe an excuse to have a mid-season break out of any of them because everywhere they go, this is a major motion picture. The size of the production is absolutely huge. It's bigger than most big budget films.
True.
And, there's a lot more to that than a lot of the other series have to deal with.
Sure.
And, it's just...
Yeah.
But okay, so they get a mid-season break, but why anybody else? It just does not make sense to me, especially when the entire series is in the can.
Right. Well, that's what I mean, because it's just the networks. It's money. MONEY is the only reason for the mid-season.
But what I don't understand about that, though, is if it's money, like you say, it seems to me that all this spreading it out and maximizing the dollar would absolutely tick off the consumer. I know I'm pretty ticked off.
They don't, because, we're also not sheeple, and we're also on the side of it that they're not. So they just sit in front of their TVs. They don't have anything else to do. Or, we're in production with other things, so we really couldn't care less, and we're busy and all this stuff. And, in the meantime, they're just spending their money getting merchandise because they mix the show so much, and they're buying the DVD sets, and they're ordering it on Amazon, and they're, getting the season pass, and, they're doing all these things.
Right.
And because they're jonesing for the show.
Right.
Whereas we're on to other shows for the reason of being able to discuss them and, analyze their production and all those kind of things.
Sure. Well, it's like anything with me. I mean, Sons of Anarchy, I don't go out and buy season 1 on DVD. I don't go out and buy season 2 on DVD.
Even Sopranos, I didn't do that. And this all started with that.
I didn't go out and buy season 4 on DVD. Because, you go do that like the masses are doing, and they're spending $30 and $40 a pop for a season. And then when the whole thing's over, oh, yay, we've got all 7 seasons, and it only cost us like $650. And then what happens? Well, the whole season gets released on DVD in a special gift pack for $49.
Right. Well, that too. But
so then how big of a tool do you feel?
But you don't even need to do the DVD thing anymore because you can get the season pass on Amazon for $22 a season, and it's digital, and you can call it up at will. But the fact of the matter is, once a season's over, there's no reason to watch it over again. There's other series. There's other things to watch. I won't ever watch Sons of Anarchy again.
No.
I mean, I'm not going to go watch it again. Even Sopranos, which was the show that started all of this. I haven't revisited. The only episode was, when they killed off a couple of the characters. There were some brilliant episodes and some brilliant scenes that you refer back to as some of the classic, scenes that they're like master classes on that kind of scene.
Okay.
That's why you watch them again. But other than that, I don't revisit series and things like that. I'm on to other series. I'm on to other new things,
Yeah.
Did I cry for a year when it was over? Did I have withdrawals? Did I, and I lived in Jersey at the time? Yeah. But, that's about it. But that's what started it all.
Yeah, I can't speak to that show because I never did watch it.
No?
I always got my mob fix from the feature films.
You'll watch it, though. He will watch it someday, and then he'll change his tune about it all because that was, in every sense of the word, the writing, the production, not to mention there's scenes of where I grew up in when I was little. In my neighborhood there, you'll be able to see in the opening scenes. So, but, there's a lot of things about that show that I know especially will appeal to you. But... Yeah,
the strip joint. Yeah.
That too. That's right down. That's right next to my brother's restaurant.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's right there. And but there. How you like your realism.
Yeah.
It's all in there. The graphicness. The There's no holds barred to that. It's all realistic.
Well, and how about just the honesty of the characters?
That too.
I looked for that in realism, too.
That, too. Nobody pulls any punches there. So, right. So, but unlike, like I say, Walking Dead, that had to have a mid-season finale, Game of Thrones' issue is that the seasons are so far and few between,
Yeah.
And again, we're now chalking that up to just discovering that the books aren't even completed yet. So how much of that delay between Game of Thrones season is because of the massive, epic production need?
Yeah.
Or is it because the story's not finished? So there's a couple of things that could be going on with that there. But something like Game of Thrones especially, people can't help but get their fix. So that is a huge merchandising opportunity, a huge, what the mid-season tries to do, Game of Thrones just does in between seasons naturally.
Right.
Because it's such a phenomenon. Like I searched Game of Thrones and there's 16 billion pages on the internet, with just that term. And unfortunately, like I said, I have missed the last 2 seasons because I've been busy doing other things. But as soon as I get a chance, maybe over the holiday break, I don't know.
I think so.
We'll catch up on that. We'll get the season passes ourselves on Amazon, and we'll catch up on them. So that way...
You hear that? This is her asking for permission live on the air.
Oh, well, yeah, we have to do it. It's for work, though. We have to do it for work.
It's a write-off. Yeah.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll do that, and then we'll catch up.
Did you catch that? She just gave herself permission. Did you get that? Where's my paddle?
No, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, yeah, yeah. So we'll catch up, and then when they launch it, we'll be all caught up. Seeing it, because we can't miss it. We were really big into the Game of Thrones when it first came out and all that.
Well, and again, I got to say, much like The Walking Dead, the Game of Thrones first season was I was on the edge of my freaking seat. That was just that they had it. I mean, they didn't just start off and build up third season into something monumental and critics acclaiming. No, they just hit it out of the park with the first pitch. And my hope is, they've just been approved for the 7th season. My hope is, and I really seriously pray to God above, whoever he or she may be, that they don't experience the same magical number 7 fate that, say, something like Sons of Anarchy, or indeed what I think The Walking Dead is facing. That like with Sons of Anarchy, I could have lived without seeing the last 2 seasons.
Oh, me too. And we got, if you listened to our show last week, I would have taken each one of those characters in another direction, in a continuing direction. Everybody still needed to arc. What the hell?
Yeah.
It was just incomplete. But that's what you get when you get a novice, first-time screenwriter, doing the series, even with a writer's room full of experienced screenwriters, See, that's the thing I hate about television writing, and there's too many cooks that spoil the broth.
Yeah, fair enough. And well, I'm just hoping that Game of Thrones doesn't go that way. I'm not sure it will.
I don't think so, because the books are, if they stay true to the books, mayhaps not. But if it gets to the point where the TV writers are finishing the series because, the writer can't finish, then we might have that issue. But again, I have to see the last 2 seasons. I do, because everything that happened up to the point where I stopped watching had a point and a purpose. The last season I watched, Joffrey was still alive. The next season he was killed. That's where I laid off on, So I have to see that, and I read the spoilers and stuff. I don't tell him, but I read the spoilers and stuff because I just can't wait either. But I don't know everything, but I do know certain things. And I need to see how they play out. And don't look at me like that, but I do.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
But I have to see how things play out. And, whether they're going to be able to do that accurately and good and correctly or not, I was very disappointed they cut off Jaime Lannister's hand. And I don't know where that's going and what that's supposed to mean and all this stuff. But apparently it has a point to the story.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I almost think from a production and a historical standpoint, really, we should maybe, the television network should be limited I think the television network should be limited that no series can go longer than 5 seasons. That's the cutoff.
Oh, I don't know. That's going to be tough, but it would be a wonderfully interesting challenge for writers to try and, maybe they'd be more conservative and less frivolous with the baloney that they do. Maybe they would distill the characters and actually sit down and, like you're supposed to, right from the end. So that way the characters actually do arc and we do care about them every single episode. We don't lose our care for the characters because, the writer started out writing this kicking character, and after the first, mid-plot point arc that he did just a little bit to get to his climax, they lose the plot. But when you write from the end, you know exactly where your character is going to go, exactly what he's going to do, exactly how he's going to feel about these things. But, but that's usually the case when you have an original series or an original screenplay.
Well, I don't think if my idea is a good one or not. I'm not saying that I think I'm sure, but it would be interesting,
It would be very interesting, a very good challenge.
Television writing has formulas to it. They have, set guidelines and set structure.
Sure.
How hard would it be, as any of the networks, to just come out and say, well, you know what, from now on, any of our TV series are going to be limited to 5 years, so write for that.
Right, that would be brilliant.
Would the stories get better?
I think they would. Don't forget now, though, you're talking about a drama series like Game of Thrones, like Walking Dead.
Right.
When, it's a very, very different structure when it comes to comedy or when it comes to, say, soap opera or, serial like Dallas or, those kind of things. Every single one of those types has their own structure, their own beats, their own, rhythm.
Yeah.
And a lot of those shows, especially with the drama, like the medical drama, look at Law & Order still on the air.
Oh, yeah.
What is it, like 15 years? There's 4 different offshoots of Law & Order, and they're still coming up with stuff to write. And,
sure.
And they still interweave those main characters through all the stories, and they do it incredibly well. And
but you see, crime is eternal.
Well, that's true, but I'm saying the structure of the crime show, the courtroom drama.
Yeah.
That's its own structure. That's its own beat. That's, you can go on for eternity with that. Because if a character starts losing his arc, you just kill him. You just kill him off. Something happens. He put somebody in jail and they came back for revenge. There's a million things you can do.
Right.
But in something that's a drama like Game of Thrones, which is a cliffhanger drama, every week is supposed to be a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because when you start adapting things from graphic novels or from novels, that kind of thing, you run into that trouble because you have a blank story. It's 3 acts, just like it should be mostly, beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
But now you're supposed to keep this 3-act structure, this story that's got a beginning, a middle, and end going for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and you can't do it.
No.
It's very, very difficult because your character's in a book. I studied writing before I studied screenwriting, and they're 2 entirely different things. They're 2 different formulas. With writing, you write in the past. With screenwriting, you have to write in the present.
Yeah.
So right there, it changes everything. And
well, there we
about
go.
your characters and your descriptions of the characters. Exactly. We didn't even get to talk about after shows, but
I know.
Oh, well.
Time flies when you're having real fun.
That's true.
On a Real Talk.
That's right. Oh, well. Okay. Well, as I bring up the lights on another episode of Real Talk, I'd like to thank HTLA for giving me the opportunity to put my film school education to good use for you here each week. Thank you to our sponsors and to all of those involved in making the shows and films I analyze for you here. A very big thank you to my crew and always to my leading man, Christopher John Taylor. Don't forget to go to the website to check out what's coming next. Write to us about tonight's show and to check out all of our original programming. There won't be a Real Talk next Wednesday as it's Christmas Eve, but HTLA will be on the air with something special. But tune in as I dish for real about all things real. Good night, Meeps.
Good night, everybody. From all of us at HTLA Radio 1 New York, happy holidays!